Okay, we are gonna call the meeting call to order. Today's it's July 23rd, 2025. We have quorum, it's like we have quorum, right? We need at least 4 for quorum, is that right? Do you want to do roll call? Councilor Garrison? Here. Commissioner Berry? Here. Commissioner Holman is absent, it's like, Commissioner Flores or Chair Flores is running late. And we have Commissioner Lovett. Here. Commissioner Devane. Here. And Commissioner Bush. Here. Okay, so we will dive into the minutes. Has anyone had a chance to look at the minutes and would like to make a motion to approve those, or is there any corrections that are needed at this time?
I have a question. I know I was absent last week or last month, but the month before. Showing me was absent over there. Was I absent?
We have to go back and look. I don't know off the top of my head.
You wouldn't mind?
Sure.
Thank you.
Oh, Rebecca,
Yeah,
did you get these in the
yeah.
mail?
I forgot.
Turn the back side of it and it says commissioners absent. This is the last meeting we're talking about. It said your name.
Well, I know it was laptops and.
Just asking about the meeting before.
Before June
So it
30th.
sounds like Myra will check out. I'll check and I'll get back. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Or the agenda, excuse me, or no, the minutes, thank you. And the minutes. Okay, yeah, first we have.
I second.
Okay, so we will consider the minutes approved. We got.
Oh,
Oh, do we have a vote?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed? Okay, we will consider the minutes approved. Okay, so there doesn't appear to be any public or comments or visitors at this time, so we can just go ahead and move into the staff reports.
Cool, so we're gonna do sort of like we've done the last couple of meetings, and we're gonna just take a look at some of the district. See what we can learn just by looking at some stuff. We're gonna try and keep it somewhere around video, an hour. We do have a video as well. I'll even try and play the video at 1.25 speed, just get it going just a little bit quicker. I watched a guy on 1.5 speed, but I think one speed is finished slow. So what I would like to talk about today, and sort of, it's again, the district changes, cities change over time, and so I just want all of us to sort of think about how the city has changed over time. And I think that you can start seeing evidence of it once you start picturing, okay, this is what was originally created, then we can start saying, okay, hey, look, I can see how that's different there, I can see how this building orientation is different. And so that's essentially what we're going to take a look at. Now, the district over time, we see a whole lot of So another thing I want to just emphasize is one of the things that I'd like you to see is start trying to picture is the various eras that you can see in the district. And once you sort of get attuned to them, I think that you'll be able to say, hey, look, here's a string of 1940s houses right here. Or here's a series of ranch houses, and maybe it just helps us understand the district more. So that's what we're trying to do as part of this meeting. So I'll show you guys a picture. This right here, and it is on your screen, so that's good. This right here is the plat of Henry, the Hills Plat of Independence or something like that. You can see that this plat created a whole bunch of lots, and they're all exactly the same size, 66 by 148.5, right? That's the size of the lot. Now, what would happen back in the day is people would come in and they'd buy one of them, or they'd buy two of them, or they'd buy a plot, right? And so, and they would assemble their lots and put their house in the center of it, right? And so you can see sort of how that starts playing out when we start looking at some of the plats and whatnot. So if the Sanborn maps. So if we take a look at this, we can see there's the 4 lots right there from that plat, there's the 4 lots. But then you have times when, like this right here, that's 2 lots, and there's a boarding house on it. Right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Down on the bottom, 3, is that third 3?
This is third, right? That's third right there, not this.
All of them. Okay,
It's third on page 3.
or is it page 3?
You know, I
I'm
don't
just
know.
wondering where it is, that's all.
Yeah, well, okay, so that's a good question. So this is second right here, those are the rails, this is C, that's third, right? So you can see right here, you have the 4 lots. If we go to another page, we can see too, oh, and I should have pointed out as well. You see them sort of built out here, but if you go to other pages, for instance, you might not see the same level of built out. Now, hopefully this actually switches for us, I can see it spin, but maybe it's not actually gonna. So. Go to a different thing. So if we look at this, you can see some of the lots don't have 8 houses on them. Some of them 2 orient the houses different ways. They buy the lots and then they shift the lot line. Right? So this is sort of how that very simple thing that we see here sort of changes and develops over time. Right? This is how the district sort of got built out. Now, if we take a look, and I'm sorry, I have a place. If we take a look at this, there's a lot of places for this to get built out into still. There's still a lot of lots left that people could come into, and gradually that happens, right? But this right here, and just to orient you, this is like about where Independence Elementary is. This is a different elementary school at the time, is 4th between B and C, right? So you can see that if there was 8 lots on each of these blocks, there's not 8 homes on each of these blocks. You know, and gradually what happens over time, and this is 1902. Gradually over time, it starts filling in, and let me remember what page I want to show you the comparable. It's page 5 for this one. So you can see over 10 or so years, we start seeing filling in of the area. Now, what's interesting about that is the infilling of the lots is a different form of housing style, right? It's a different type of house. So 1902, everything that's been built there is probably a Victorian style house, right? You go from 1902 after, you start transitioning to things like craftsman houses, right? It's a different house style, and so the things that are getting built there are a little bit different. And so you see that era is starting to change, but that's sort of what our historic district does. Now, if we had more of these, we could keep on laying this out. And even if we look at our map, we can see that various housing types start changing. So if the dark gray are sort of the Victorian, then the light blue are the bungalows and stuff as they're coming in, and you can see that era change, and you can see where they're sort of clustered in places as they're going into some of those spots and filling them in little by little. Now, some of the, I shouldn't say it's just all filling stuff in, because some houses actually got tore down for new homes. And I'll just show you an example of that. So if we go to it's 1934. We go to this right here, it should be a lot that we're all familiar with, right there at the corner of Monmouth and 7th. One of our biggest craftsman style homes. It sits on this quarter of this block, right? And you can see there's a house here. But in the process, this house got knocked down and the big Craftsman home got added, so we can look at that. And see. We drop the pin and set them on it, and I'll just show you because we can see over time. If this is 1913, there's 3 houses on that whole block, right, in 1913. But we look at it now, there's quite a few more houses on that block. Now, not all of those are in the district, it's only this half of the block that's in the district. And when we look at the house that got put there, it's of course the big massive Craftsman house. That says Mayor McCardle's house, right?
Right.
So we can see from this, the house got tore down. A Craftsman got put there instead. Also, one thing I'll just call out since we're looking at it. Is when we look at this, so there's a house right here. That was existing. This got tore down, a new house got put in there. But look, a house got put in between them. And this house that got put in between them is absolutely not a Craftsman house, it's a ranch style, right? It's a later addition to the district. And so we can see how the district starts changing over time. And so this little stretch of houses, we have an Italianate right there, hiding in the trees. We have a ranch, and then we have a Craftsman, right? It's an interesting thing, we see the transition of the district little by little. So again, one thing that I'd love for us to sort of get our minds around. Is our district is not a pristine sort of Victorian district. Where everything is Victorian. It's not all Craftsman, no, we've changed, it's changed over time, and that's what kind of makes it a little quirky district, right? Now. Going down the street. Just a little bit more, I'll just call out some of the things that we can look at. These two right here are Craftsman. What are some of the characteristics that we see in Craftsman style homes?
Big porches.
Big porches, that's a great example, or that's a great one. Other things that we see, there's a couple of very distinctive features of Craftsman, yeah.
Lines.
Was it,
Roof lines,
well, what type of roof line?
the peaks,
The piece?
where they're peaked.
They're both gabled, a lot of times what happens with Craftsman style homes is they present a very simple gable. Right, it's a fairly simple house. Simple gable, symmetrical, a lot of times it's not higher than a story and a half, so you can see this is a story and a half right there. As well, there's one feature that is absolutely, when you see it, you're like, that is a Craftsman, like you could literally see it, you would be able to point, anybody know what that is?
The posts.
The posts a lot of times are very distinctive too, so you don't really see it here, these are fairly straight posts, but a lot of times when you see a Craftsman style home, they have. And that one doesn't really have it either, they have sort of flared posts or battered columns.
Paul's house, Paul's house, where's.
Right, exactly, that's exactly that, and I'll show that one in just a second.
But they have the windows on second story.
The windows on the second story, because if you're having a bedroom or whatever up there, or if you're using the space, you need light to the space. Which is why you put windows up there, and so in an instance like this has a gabled dormer right here. This is a shed dormer right here. And that's just a different roof line, right? So this is a shed roof here. This is a gabled roof there, and really the purpose of those is to get more light into the upstairs, make the upstairs usable. The one thing, I mean, the thing that the answer I'm looking for is exposed rafters and exposed things like knee braces. If you see stuff like this,
Yeah.
that is absolutely a Craftsman house, or if you see the exposed rafter ends, which you can see right here in that picture, how they're sticking out underneath that, those are exposed rafters. If you see those, that is absolutely a Craftsman house. Also, a lot of times you see things like, and you can see those there, you can see the rafters there. I'll show them to you on this house down here. Also, things like knee braces. If you see these things, that is a Craftsman house. That's a knee brace. Sometimes they're structural, sometimes they're not. They just wanted the house to look beefy. And natural. Again, you'll remember with the Victorian, there's a whole lot of curlicues and stuff like that. This is very simple. Right? It emphasizes natural materials and very simple structure.
Organic.
Yeah, very organic. It grew out of the arts and crafts movement and all this sort of stuff. It's about 1905 to 1925 or so. I'll go down here to Paul's house just to see an example of those columns. This is a beautiful Craftsman style house. You can see these beams here, and then you can see the rafters there. But oh yeah, you were commenting on the columns, which of course those are sweet columns.
I'd love to see the inside of that house.
Yeah, it's
But it's sweet.
there was a video done of it. We did a video because we gave Paul an award for his work on that house. I'll show you just a couple of more so we can get a sense of some more of these Craftsman style houses, and just to get us into different parts of the town that we might not normally think of as part of the district. These are part of the district as well. So sometimes they have kind of detailing in the roof line. Sometimes you'll see sort of a pointed, sort of almost oriental looking thing here on a roof. We don't have any of those in town here, but this is sort of a similar approach. You can see these columns, very beefy, sort of tapered. And then you can see things like the rafter tails right there, and these features. This is absolutely a Craftsman house. Again, it's 1.5 stories tall. It's on a base, but that's getting light to the upper story, right? This is sort of similar. You can see these rafter tails, very elaborate, you know, nice looking detailing on that. It's absolutely a Craftsman style house as well. So from there though, it's interesting. And I'll bring in a video sometime about this year's houses and everything like that. A lot of this stuff was pattern book sort of architecture and things like this year's catalog, where they could send out entire house plans, right? Pre-cut, owner assembled on a site, right? You know, or a contractor assembled on a site. They built there was a lot of these things. This was the style for a while. Fairly simple house. In a lot of ways, they were fairly easy to construct. Because especially if you've got just a gabled roof, it's not super sophisticated. Things like this are obviously more sophisticated. This is a pretty one. Coming out of that though, you know, like 1925, all that sort of stuff, we start hitting the Depression. Not much construction for a while after that. Coming out of World War II, and we'll see this in the video just a little bit. But when we come out of that, we start seeing different types of housing, right? And it's interesting because we see these different types of housing interspersed as well. And so the first little examples that we see of this are say at maybe 6 in Monmouth, where you see this. This is not a Craftsman house. There's no exposed rafters, nothing like that. It's a very simple structure, right?
Would you say that's a Sears house?
No, this,
Do we know of any Sears houses?
we don't, I don't know of any.
Okay.
There are people that go around looking for Sears houses. And I have a very nice video of one of them, but
Oh,
I don't. It's not here that they're doing that.
So Fred, the house that you just showed on Sixth and Monmouth, that is the World War II era cottage, is that what the map says?
That's what our historic, and all of these things. I just took from our historic designations and put them onto a map, so we could start seeing spatially where these things are at. And that's what these two are as well, yeah, World War II era cottage. So when you see this and this, and then this, but they're all a similar thing. Now, when I show you these four houses together, what is different about these houses than a lot of the craftsmen and whatnot that we see? It's an interesting thing to me.
They're one story.
Well, they're all one story, there's no using the upper story on this, that's exactly true. They're very plain, yes, another thing that I'll point out is these buildings run across the width of the lot. Rather than if we look at these, which run the depth of the lot. And so for years and years and years, and I mean, you'll see some craftsmen flip at an angle. And oriented like that to the street, but a lot of traditional building uses the depth of the lot. When you start getting after World War II though, you start seeing people build across the width of the lot. And it's interesting, you especially see it when we get into the ranch style. So when we look at the green ones on this map, I could almost, without fail, drop a pin and show you one of these green ones, and it will be oriented different using the width of the lot, right? This is a traditional lot that would have normally oriented their house over here.
Right.
Instead of that, though, they took the depth of the lot and they oriented the house at an to use the width, the long 148.5 feet for the ranch style. I'll just show you a couple others so you can get a picture of it. This one as well, right? Uses the width of the lot. Right, it extends its house this way. Even coming down here, I think oh no, block. I don't know, see this one. Yeah. This orients its house across the width of the lot. I'll show you one more just so you can see it. I could literally take any one of these ranch ones, I think, per near and show it to you. Right here,
Yeah.
another one. So it's interesting because it's just a fundamentally different way of building this. It's a fundamentally different approach. And so we can see that all of these things are spread out through the district. Right, there is no one ultimate development style.
Which leans towards us, you know, allowing some diversity as we move forward, right? Things come to the table, you have to take a big picture in mind. I have a question if I may.
Yeah.
So the mayor's house, previous mayor, 1914, built in 1914 on 7th and Monmouth, if you wanna go there for me.
Yeah.
So it's listed as a bungalow, which I've never considered a craftsman a bungalow before. So
Yeah,
I didn't realize that those two, so is it? Can you explain that, like how a craftsman is also considered a bungalow?
you know, it's. And maybe I grouped a whole bunch of I grouped all the craftsmen and. Cause there was essentially 3 different categories and I just grouped them together. Now that's a craftsman set, a lot of times they're called craftsman bungalow, I don't really
Okay.
know what the difference
Never heard
between
that, okay,
craftsman and
so
bungalow
craftsman can
and.
be bungalow. So
Pictures.
but bungalows aren't always crafts,
I think that probably makes sense. I think something like this, you would probably call this a craftsman house because it's more than one story.
Right.
But bungalows are truly like the 1.5 story thing that we see.
Okay,
Oh,
thank you for the clarification.
no problem. Now, I will just call out, so that's really what I wanted to sort of communicate and just have you folks start picturing. There are just a couple of weird sort of anomalies that I'll call out. Just so we can see too that this is not all we have, like the old city hall. That's a different style building, right? And this is called Northwest Regional, right? It's a different style building, very contemporary sort of architecture. But yeah, it's different. It's absolutely different. Also, the post office, you look at the post office.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, that's different, right? And it's interesting when we look at like the old Sanborn maps. And we look at what it was in I think it's this one, 1913, you look at that stretch, this is where that city hall is right there, and there's where the post office is. Right now it's city hall, parking lot, post office, right? You can see there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 houses in a room, right? So there was a lot of houses where right now it's sort of, it's very, I don't know, it's very, this block is very 1960s sort of era plan, you know? A lot of parking, kind of modern looking buildings, whatnot. It was way different back in the past.
Can you check, what is the one on, that's why I was curious about this house. The one, I think it's on 7th and C Street on the corner, 7th and C or 6th and
Which one are you looking at?
7th and C.
7?
Yeah. Okay, no,
Are you looking at that one?
no,
This one?
then it's 6th and C.
This one?
No, it's the second,
Oh, it's this guy?
yes,
Oh, yeah, that one.
what do you consider that?
Cause the
Because
roof
look
is
at the
always
roof line.
real interesting.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting house.
Also,
It's,
Mm-hmm.
It is, yeah. It's probably a craftsman bungalow.
Well, so
I wanna say this is gonna be something like a Spanish revival. It's a weird revival house. I don't have a date on it, and it's not because there's not a date on it, it's just because when I was showing all of this map, it's something different than all of these.
oh,
so you think
yeah.
it's a
Categories.
combination?
I think it's just, so there's, in the midst of all of this stuff, there's also weird revival styles going on too. That people are building strange types of houses, various places, and so you can have colonial revival style houses, right? You can have things like this, that's probably, I would probably say it's like a Spanish revival.
Like the rich person houses in Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
Where I grew up,
Oh,
yeah.
Is
I like
that what you would call?
I like the way that the
Spanish
composition shingles wrap over the edge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, that's neat.
it's a pretty neat looking
You don't
house,
see stucco very much in Oregon because of wet.
that's correct. But again, then we just hop into different, so we have that, and then we have this, which is obviously a different era. And then this is, which is probably more of that World War II cottage style again. And so it's just, it's a very interesting mix when we truly sit and look at the district. Right?
Yes.
Now, based on all of that, let me just see if I had any other things that I wanted.
Can I ask a question
Yeah,
about the Spanish revival in the corner? You said that was 6th and C, correct?
yeah,
So that is There's nothing about that, it doesn't say anything on your map.
Yeah, it's just because with this map, I didn't try and list every type of building
Sure.
style, because the list would have been.
Sure,
super long.
sure.
What I was trying to do here is just take some of them and show how they transition over time.
Okay.
And the ones that I chose happened to catch a lot of the sort of change that I was wanting to show in the
Well, it
district.
shows I don't know when you took this, when this picture was taken, but it shows it's for sale, you can always check it.
Yeah, it's,
June 2024.
it's no longer for sale.
Oh, it's no longer for sale.
No,
June 24th. Yeah. So, okay, I think that's probably pretty good. Now, I will just say, you know, and you sort of said, now, some of these things we consider contributing to the district, some of the ones like ranch housing, we don't consider contributing to the district, right? They're in the district, but they haven't contributed to either the craftsman style, the bungalow sort of era of the development of the district, or the Victorian style. And so we treat them different in our regulations than we do all the other more historic types of houses, right? Now, in the future, some of these, we may look at them in the future, and we might say, that ranch house is beautiful. Right, and we might we might consider one of those contributing to the district in the future. There are districts that are looking at mid-century modern style houses and trying to do a district around mid-century modern. And so it's just, I guess what I want all of us to really understand is the district is not a pristine one type of era. It has grown over time and it's changed, and it will continue to grow over time and change. That's not necessarily a bad thing, yeah.
Over on, let's see, 8 and close to Monmouth, there's 2 lots that, 2005,
Yeah,
is that,
so
what would those be?
we're not gonna be able to see them. Well, we can kind of see them. There's a couple of fourplexes that got put back here. And now we are going to take a couple of walking tours. Coming up, one is on August 14th, that's looking at the various housing types that we have in the city of Independence. And one of the places I wanna take people is back here, because I think a lot of people don't know that there's 2 fourplexes back here. And we actually have a whole bunch of these fourplexes and weird apartments, like tucked into various parts of the city that people don't know about. So that's what those are.
I've been dying to ask you about a house on this street, and I don't know the number of it, but it's all the way at the other end towards the park, and I think somebody might be living there, but I'm not exactly sure.
I have no idea about that house. How is it?
Okay.
Yep. So,
So like, when I got, after architect came and looked at my house, they said it was prairie / craftsman. So
Okay.
it was a mixture of the two.
okay, so our designation document only calls one house a prairie style. Now, prairie and craftsman are very similar, and I look at the one that they designated as a prairie style, and I'm like, I don't.
Show us the one that you have highlighted as a prairie school so we can see.
Yeah,
And then we
and
can look
then,
at.
and then we can look at,
And mine was like a working.
well,
So what, yeah, what's the
I had
definition?
letters from people that raised in the walls.
The one.
People up staying there.
cool, alright, well, we'll look at that in a sec.
Yeah.
We'll look at that in a sec. So this is the one that they consider prairie style. It looks a lot like craftsman style to me. I think it's undergone some pretty significant changes. I can't imagine that these were original. And also I can't imagine that this was original. Now, prairie style, prairie school architecture is typified by a flat roof or a flatter style roof with large overhanging eaves. Right, it was popularized by Frank Lloyd Wright and all that sort of stuff, and so. And yep, in Chicago, yep, and so You look at this. And it's like, maybe, it's kind of a flat roof. Maybe the eaves are overhanging, but to me, I look at it, I'm like, I don't quite see it, maybe. What's your address?
92 Log Cabin.
Let's compare it to this, I mean, again,
I wonder if it's because the previous one you showed that was prairie, there's a lot, it's not just a 1.5 story, right? There's a big upstairs and hers even has, well, there's just a dormer. I don't know, that doesn't look anything like the other one, it looks more craftsman.
Those are the Appler architects call it, was like, okay, I never saw it there, but okay.
yeah, so I mean, I would say I'd look at that, I would say. Probably a Craftsman, but
Yeah.
I never saw it.
yeah, but
Yeah.
But you know, I think a lot of, and I think the one guy that we were watching is sort of like this, you know, like maybe it's this, you know, I think that there's no hard fast thing where you're like, this is absolutely this, I mean. Some of them you can absolutely say, oh yeah, that's absolutely, like if it's got a turret on it, that's a Queen Anne house, you know?
Right.
Well,
Unless it was like with my house, it was Victorian and then they added a porch and the dormers in 1928, so it doesn't look. It
Yeah.
looks like a Craftsman, sort of.
Right, right, and that can happen too. Cause additions can, or alterations can start changing how a house looks over time, I mean. You remember, I've showed you the one before, this one out here. You look at this house out here and you're like, I got no idea what that was.
Yeah.
You know, it's just really tough to tell how that house might have looked in the past.
And so they have that listed as a Victorian.
Yeah, yep.
And I don't have a.
I would never
picture
call that a
on it. I
Victorian.
can't tell what it is.
It looks more prairie to me now that we saw the other one.
Oh, it's not listed as a Victorian on this.
It's
It does
not.
look, it looks like a,
It's not, if that's what the, isn't
Well,
that
no, what I'm saying, it's not listed as anything, but it's in the picture of the Hedges house when
Right.
it was new in 18,
Oh.
and it was built by a daughter.
right, and I would say that this is probably an Italianate style house. And I would almost bet you anything that this had,
It does, I'll
um,
say, in that
stuff,
picture.
stuff underneath this, to support this. I also think these windows were different, and I know that that picture shows, projection or something right here. So. Yeah. Alright, so that's that, I do wanna get you folks out of here by 6:30.
good, great.
So, I'm gonna try and,
I really appreciate the map though, Fred, thank you.
Yes, it's.
yeah, and sorry I didn't put everything on it, we do have all the data for everything, I was just playing with stuff, I thought it was kinda interesting.
I would not hate you if you have a map of everything.
Okay, at some point, the map of everything will,
Just make
No pressure. Yeah, just label.
Tag everything.
alright. Hold on, 1 second, let's see if I can actually get a playback speed. Alright. Now, this is gonna talk about a lot of the stuff that we talked about today, but I find this guy really interesting, and so I hope you like it too.
20 years that changed home building. Want to know why there's cookie cutter houses? Want to know why there's McMansions? Want to know why houses are ugly today? Come join me. 20 years that changed everything. In preparing a bunch of my talks recently, I came across some amazing statistics and some amazing information that caused me to realize that there's a 20-year period of time in America that changed the way we deal with housing today. It was 20 years that influences the cookie cutter houses that we have today, McMansions, production builders, right? And just the state and economy of building in America happened because of these 20 years. 2023, if we just look back at last year, what those stats were, about 1 million single family houses were built. The top 200 builders accounted for almost 50% of those houses, right? So D.R. Horton built 80 or 90,000 houses, 10% built by one home builder, which is rare because that isn't the way things used to be. 100 years ago, a large production builder built 200 or 300 houses a year. Most of them were small custom builders that built locally that weren't national players, that didn't have huge loans at the bank. In fact, there's a book called American Housing, which was a study of the home building industry. I think it was done in 41 or 42, trying to figure out how to build up the home building industry. And part of the problem is that home builders, they found, crafted houses instead of building them in the production mindset. That was the problem. We've changed in the last 100 years the way we think about houses, the way we buy houses, the way we live in houses, the percentage of ownership in houses, which is a good thing for people. So because the focus of how we build has changed, right? That the builder in the early 20s was a builder who crafted houses one at a time. The average builder at that time built 1 to 4 houses a year versus the massive production builders that are building thousands and thousands of houses. The whole approach to building has completely changed. Now, that 20-year period started in 1926 and it lasts till 1946. If you consider that this 20 years that changed everything, okay, starts in 1926. Now you're saying, well, what happened in 1926? 1926 was the peak year of the roaring 20s when home building was at its most. We built 1 million houses a year, okay, in 1926, right at 1 million. That number was kind of an early peak and an early time of building houses. If you live in a house in an area where there's a lot of period revival houses, that was that 1926 period. It went down a little bit, and by 29 with the crash, right? And by 33, okay, we're building like 100,000 houses a year. Okay, so if you look at housing stock or houses built in the 30s and 40s, they're very different than the houses built in the 20s. The materials have changed. And this depression, okay, changed molding sizes. I mean, one of the things, me being a molding geek, if you look at moldings in 1920, they're 4.5 inches wide. They're big. If you look at moldings in 1930, they're 2.5, 3.5 inches wide. Everything started changing during this time period. We kind of muddle through the 1930s. We're starting to get better by 38, 39, and then the war happens, okay? War takes place. We go into the war in the early 40s, and we don't come out of that war till ends in 45. 16 million GIs come home in 1946. So we kind of, but by 46, okay, we've got a huge problem, okay? And that huge problem is 16 million GIs come home, and you realize that if 1 million houses a year is kind of the standard for how many houses need to be built in order for there to be enough supply and demand, okay? So if you figure we don't hit that number again until the 1950s, okay, you realize that there's this huge period of time where we haven't been building enough houses, and the houses that we've been building are small and cheaply built sometimes. And so what happens right here, okay? The industry, including the builders and including the architects, including the manufacturers, including everybody, is trying to figure out how to build houses. It's very similar to the housing crisis we just are coming through, right? Where affordability is a hard thing. We're looking for all these different solutions to try to figure out, is it a tiny house? Is it zoning? Is it, what is the way to solve this housing crisis that we have right now? We had the same thing going in 46. And what came out of that was two things. One, the builders basically began to follow a model developed by William Levitt. Now, William Levitt, if you've heard of Levittown and things like that, was a builder who was building period revival houses in the 20s. And during this war period, he goes to Virginia and ends up building houses for a shipping yard. And he learns how to build cheap and fast for the government, realizes that you could put things on slabs, realizes that thinking about and breaking the rules for how you build a house really could change. He comes back in 47, 48 and starts building houses very small, okay? The average house size in 26, 12 to 1,400 square feet. William Levitt's building houses that are 800 square feet, 600 square feet, over and over again. And he basically broke the housing building system into 26 steps. And at his peak, okay, and he would not call himself a builder, he called himself a manufacturer. I mean, William Levitt knew how many nails went into every house that he built. He was completely vertically integrated, owned the forest, owned the lumber yards, owned the nail yards, right? It was a genius way of thinking about building in some ways. And so he basically broke it down into 26 steps. And so if you had a development in 1926, and this is a new thing, you might have a house goes here, you might have a house go here, you might have a house go here. And slowly, because a number of these different builders are, buying up a lot, buying two, buying three, you would slowly fill in this neighborhood. Well, Levitt went in there and, like a manufacturer, right, he was rolling out these lots, one after another, one after another, one after another. And then he'd turn the corner and come back. And shortly after those slabs were built, the framers came and they set these walls. And then a whole different crew came in and set the rafters. And a whole different crew came and sheathed the house. And a whole different crew brought plumbing trees back into the thing. They dropped them right into the plumbing thing. They had radiated, heated floors. I mean, he was doing some crazy things. And so he approached this development, and when he was going hot, he was building 10,000 houses a year. These Levittown developments that developed very fast, 17, 18, 19,000 houses that sold out very quickly. There was weekends that he sold 1,000 houses in a weekend. Astounding, right? The top 50 guy on the home building list today doesn't do 1,000 houses in a year. That's how many he's doing in a weekend. So it was astounding what he was doing. And he developed the neighborhoods, and he would have pitches like, your son's never going to have to cross a busy street to get to school. You're going to have a neighborhood. He was big into Little League. He had Little League ballparks all over his neighborhoods. He was creating communities. He was creating the suburbs. So if you ever wonder about urban flight, when that happened, it happens in the 50s and 60s as production builders really hit their stride and start building houses cheap and fast. Now, the beautiful thing is how he solved the housing crisis. Because if you're living, let's say you're living in Philadelphia in 1928, and you're in a high rise, you're in an apartment, and the Great Depression happens, and you survive through this time period. The next 15, 20 years, no improvements on your apartment. You might be sharing a bathroom down the hall with another family. You are living in a situation that hasn't been improved in a long time. You might be paying $50, $100 a month to live there. Levitt comes along and says, I'll get you a house for $50 a month. You'll have a yard. You'll have a place to park your car. You'll have fruit trees. He had to teach people how to mow the grass because they'd never mowed the grass before. Crazy ideas that we kind of take for granted living in these houses that he had to teach people how to do. And so here's the bad side. Levitt is basically, because he broke the house down into 26 parts, he basically also broke the craftsman down into 26 parts, because he didn't want to pay the craftsman who could frame a house, sheathe the house, roof the house, trim the house, hang the doors. He wanted to pay an individual who only knew how to hang doors and an individual who only knew how to sheathe the house separately so that he could pay them lower wages. He had people that walk around with a blue bucket of paint and a red bucket of paint, right? I mean, he had it broken down. There's a statistic that he was finishing a house every 30 minutes or something. It was just crazy how many houses he was building and his process and the way he was doing it. Now, the problem is that imagine him breaking the unions, breaking the carpenters guilds, breaking those groups that would have those skills, and he all of a sudden breaks it up so that craft, and the skilled craftsman who's spent 20 years learning how to build all the different facets of a house, all of a sudden isn't worth anything, because they can hire a guy to hang doors and they can hire a guy to go sheathe the house, and it's not just this one-stop person who can go do everything. That, in 1947, let's say, isn't a big deal. But you go to 47, 57, 67, now a generation has passed, and by the 60s and 70s, there's all of a sudden a bunch of carpenters who no longer know how to build, they no longer know how to craft. And so your 70s, 80s, 90s, all of a sudden 2 generations have gone now where they've forgotten how to craft and they've forgotten how to build. My whole video is the lost art of building. We've forgotten how to build. It happens during this time period. This is what's going on. Now, realize that 1980s, is when the McMansion, the word is coined, right? What's going on? Why is there something called a McMansion? Why is there something called a cookie cutter house? There's never a cookie cutter house in the 20s. Why is there a cookie cutter house now in the 70s, 80s, and 90s? It's because we've changed the way we build. We've changed the way we think about building. And all of a sudden, it's no longer about beauty. It's no longer about craft. It's about speed and production. It's about how fast you can build. And so let's just say this builder in 1950, 55, he starts realizing he can make a lot more money by building houses cheap and fast. And a lot of things is happening in this period. People want those houses, right? They want the big sprawling ranches and things like that. But there's a reason houses no longer have an architectural style, You can watch my other videos to go into that. But it's because all the styles and details have been taken out of them in order to make them impressive, And so the McMansion, what is a McMansion? It's basically a Levittown house with granite countertops, with a built-up crown molding, maybe a fancy door in the front. And so all of a sudden, we've lost our way about how we think about building. All of these words that are kind of derogatory words have shown up in our vocabulary because of this period of time. Because we ran out of housings, we come out of the war, and we start building cheap and fast, and we forget how to build. You have let's just take the Staub House or some of those historic houses.
But stop it there. He has some interesting takes later on about the role of architects and everything in this as well, later on. But I think that's just sort of a good sort of overview of what we see there, and I mean, I think we can kind of see it in our district, right? The district, again, when we look at Henry Hill's plat, it was like this.
Right,
And it was onesie, twosie throughout the plat, little by little. And then people went in and here and here and here. And it's still sort of going on, people still are going into various lots, I mean, there's a couple of vacant lots that do not have a house on them right now, that somebody could go into and put a house on, right? But it's.
what's across the street?
Right, exactly, there's a difference though about how people are doing it out there in Southwest Independence stuff. Right, and so I think that's an interesting video, of course. Yeah, any thoughts that you folks have?
I have a question.
Yeah.
All these houses, you know, there's houses being built right now, okay? Here in town. I mean, the historic district. Is there any inclusion idea of including some houses in these historic districts that are getting built? I don't mean right this minute, but have been built in the last like, 40 years or something like that.
We don't have any plans or anything like that now
Just wondering.
in 2012. I think Kurt Tidmore was on the commission back then. Or 2015 or something, when that last survey came out. One of the things that he was interested in was, could the district be expanded in any way to accommodate additional historic buildings? And the sort of finding at the time was, you couldn't expand it in a way that sort of made geographic sense, you're not gonna pull in a whole lot more and have it. I mean, the district right now doesn't make a whole lot of geographic sense, but it looks like even if you're pulling various ways down, that you couldn't quite pull in other buildings that really made it worthwhile. So in the future, maybe that's worth reconsidering. I do think that there was a whole lot more buildings done, inventory as part of that than are reflected on this map. So what I think would be beneficial to do sometime is have somebody, and I'm not saying myself, hopefully if my intern comes back, she's got a summer job, but if she comes back in the fall, then I'm gonna have her expand out to actually classify each of the various other properties that got inventoried, and then we could look at it, we could say, now, we could sort of make that analysis and say, does it make sense to try and go any other way to accommodate people into the historic district? So.
I have a thought here, and just kind of looking at this map, and thinking about the dates that the guy in the video was talking about, it makes sense, there's not a whole lot of homes here from the 1930s. That just makes a lot of sense generally. It does seem like, without doing the map or anything like that, that most of our homes were kind of built here between 1900 and 1915-ish. And I'm wondering if you have any sort of thoughts on that.
I don't, it would be interesting to take, to actually do a calculation.
It would be.
And just see, and that might actually be in the original designation document, but it might not hurt just to re-look at that and compare. I think that should be fairly easy to just tell the GIS, tell me what years things got built. That'd be interesting.
The ratios, yeah.
The ratios.
With AI these days.
I think people with correlation with what's going on in the town at that time, or.
I'm just curious.
Being built, okay.
I just noticed a pattern.
What's the primary purpose of having a historic district? Is it just conservation or?
I think, yeah, partially. I do also think that it's also things like it's potentially beneficial for tourism and whatnot to have things like that. That's especially true, I would say, of our downtown. But having things to complement the downtown as well is a good thing. Now, one of the significant features of our historic district that I think got mentioned in the designation document is the fact that you have a lot of historic buildings in downtown that were built by people that then had their houses also in the district. And so they thought that that was a cool thing, where it's like you got the Cooper building, and then you've got a Cooper house, right? Stuff like that, so.
What's also bragging rights.
But there's-
Surprised how many people have bought.
There's not any other purpose behind, I mean, I'm just curious if there's another or something that I'm not aware of other than just like I said, conservation and some bragging rights maybe and some. The one that doesn't-
So historic preservation, you can get things like tax credits for certain projects, so there is that as well.
Okay, do you have to be in a historic district for some of those, or can you just have an older house, or?
You definitely need to be on the National Register, and so. There's essentially two ways to get on the National Register: be nominated yourself for an individual building or be part of the district. And so by us being, I'll be honest with you, I don't know a whole lot about how the tax credits work or anything like that.
Yeah, it raises for so many years.
Yeah,
You know.
right, and it's, yeah, and it's based on, it's some, again, I don't know exactly how it works. But I do know that there is a benefit potentially by being in the district for things like that.
I know there was
Also-
a tax freeze, cause mine was froze for 10 years, but you had to do, at that time, you had to do 2 open houses a year. And it wasn't worth it to me, so I took it off of the register, and I don't think they do that anymore, do they?
No, COVID
They
changed
stopped
that during COVID changed, yeah.
I didn't before then.
I think it might have been before that.
Oh, okay.
There's also things like, what's it? Oh, there's potentially grants that you can get to, through things like the state, but you have to have a listed property to get funding for that. So again, that's why being in the district is potentially beneficial.
Is there any reason why we haven't looked at houses over Mars?
That's outside of the historic.
It's outside of the district,
Right,
see,
right.
that going that way actually makes the most sense, to be expanded the district.
There's no.
Small little town for a reason.
Yeah. That's logical.
Yeah, because that, to me, there are a number of homes over there. I'm sure that should be targeted, should be targeted. And targeted.
Included.
Yes, yeah, and
Yeah.
targeted.
I would agree.
Well, and some of them are benefits. Grants. Would be ashamed to do stuff.
Well, it would be nice just to encompass everything in Independence that we would consider.
Yeah.
And there are homes over there that would be, so.
You always remind me of work that's like there,
Oh,
yeah. They should.
Gotcha, yeah, so that's one thing that we can absolutely do.
well, I really appreciated it today. I took a lot from today, so thank you, Fred.
Yeah,
Staff report.
Yes. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Good, easy.
Especially without an intern, you're bringing it.
No,
You put up the agenda. Sorry.
oh, she had a motion to adjourn.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
If there's no,
you need
if there's
one.
no, yeah, if there's
Oh,
no
we
other
need-
new unfinished business, no new business?
And yet, so again, we are gonna take some tours August 14th and August 28th, it's the 28th one is a tour of the historic district where we're sort of walking around and taking. Now, this isn't a historic preservation meeting per se, but y'all are welcome, we're gonna have Amy Christensen with us on the walk, so she'll be able to tell us some nice historic stuff. I think It's a Thursday, it will be at 4:30.
Alright, would you mind sending
I
the
mean, what-
dates out to everybody on?
Yeah, August 20th.
Are there any quorum rules around that meeting?
If there are quorum rules, what we will tell you is we're not. It's just for information purposes only, we're not,
No discussion, no deliberation.
no discussion, no deliberation, so.
You can bring questions back to a meeting.
Yeah.
Talk about it during the meeting.
Our next meeting is on the 18th.
It's on the 18th, it's possible that we will cancel that meeting if there's no applications that have been submitted.
I know that Flora said that she would not be able to be here for that meeting too, so.
Okay, and then what were the other 2 dates?
I think she's gonna send out the info to the group.
Working.
But those aren't
Meetings, no, they're just walking tours.
Optional.
So Myra will send out the information about those walking tours, so we all have it, and get it on our calendars, and now we're gonna convince the Crush Bus to give us all a tour instead of walking.
Oh,
That'd be great. Okay, so if there's no other further business, sounds like we already have a motion to adjourn, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, with, we will just consider it adjourned, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That would be nice if you could give it to us.
That's just wishful thinking, I don't know if I can talk down into that, but it would be fun.
My house, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
I house is that. I'm for the drive, I'm not on. Amazing.
Like,
Yeah. Carry them.
That's it.
Down the park.
I don't know.